Hello, world. This is Talkin Live, and I have a special guest from Israel. His name is Eli. I understand you was raised in Israel. You still have a home there. You work with, I think, with your dad in a recycling business, metal business. And I understand you went back to Israel. You got here when you was about 18, and you went back to Israel and served in the military for your full time. I know Israel requires citizens to serve in the military. And then you come back to America to work with your dad.
That is correct. That is correct. I got roughed up a little bit on the in the recycling industry before I left here. Went served my 3 years in the Army in Israel, and then came back to manage the company. At that time, I served in the Navy in Israel, and when I came back here to the United States with the recycling company, I leaned more towards government entities and things like that. So I'm involved in a lot of operations here in the United States with what we got going on with the border, and I'm involved with a lot of stuff going on in Israel because we still have family and friends and acquaintances, and everybody I grew up with is still over there and dealing with that war that we've got ongoing.
Also, you go back and forth there once in a while to Israel. You have a home over there too, right?
Yep, go there twice a year. We've got a home there in the central of Israel, more towards like Tel Aviv area. When this all started, I tell you that we were using our bunker in the house. Every house there has a bunker. Every house has a fortified bunker that's underneath ground that everybody, once the sirens start running, you got to run down to the bunker because, well, you've got missiles that are headed your way. So our bunkers have been used quite a lot lately. Everybody's been, redecorating them because they've been spending so much time down there. So that's a big thing for us also. And it's a shame. It's a shame the way the world sees us, and the way the world portrays what we've got going on over there. On one side, we're just trying to protect our people, and on the other hand, we're being called killers and genocidal type of situation. But yet everybody's calling for the dissolvement of Jews, for the killing of the whole Jewish state, which is the only thing we have. And it's just a shame that the world can't see it and with common sense.
So, Eli, I understand it's mostly just chaos over the people.
It's chaos because we're dealing with a situation where it's not control over oil well. It's not control over a certain mine that produces a lot of gold, and therefore that country wants that gold so that they can become more rich. It's not that. We are dealing with a situation where they want our race taken off this planet. We're dealing with a scenario where the Brotherhood of Muslims wants the Jewish people exterminated. And it's not something that we could fight with dollars. It's not something we could fight with land. It's something that they want us gone. And Israel just doesn't know how to, we don't know how to handle this, because again, it's not like if we give them land, they'll stop. It's not if we give them money, they'll stop. It's not if we give them food, they'll stop. They will not stop until they extinguish us. So we have to do what we have to do in order to eliminate the problem.
Well, what is Israel going to do to be able to work this out, maybe settle it? Or, I mean, I understand what you're saying. They don't want peace. They don't want to work with you. But what is there a solution to this?
there is a solution to this problem. There is a solution to this problem. The solution to this problem is the unity and understanding of their ideology. If we understand what they're actually going after and what they want, then the rest of the world will be like, we'll come to an understanding and say, hey, that we can't do that. That's not what this is not something that can be done. Hamas is asking too much of the world.
What measure are you going to take to try to settle this ceasefire in the war you have now? I understand that President Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, is determined to wipe out Hamas.
We are determined to wipe out Hamas because they're a group that, again, religiously that group has determined that the Jewish people cannot live on this planet. That's what they have religiously determined. So how do you fight a religious group, a fascist group that thinks that they're right and you're wrong? You need to teach them. How do we teach them? Well, we teach the rest of the world what they're trying to do. If we teach the rest of the world what they're trying to do, then maybe the rest of the world will wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, we can't do that. Because you know how you have all these pro-Palestine riots and things like that, and then the LGBTQ, they go ahead and collect in with them and all this other stuff that goes around. Well, if they were over there, women couldn't even show their faces. Gay people would be murdered on the streets. I mean, people would be stoned to death just for opening their mouths. So what are these people rioting for here? What are these people protesting here for when they don't even understand what Hamas is about?
Well,
we understand the pro-life for the people living in Gaza. We completely understand that, and we want that. But until those people make a change in their leadership or in the way or who they follow, until they change that way, then we could not come to peace.
Well, it's very hard to convince people that hate is not the answer to wars and disagreements and slaughters and murder and all that. It's hard to convince.
But propaganda is the biggest thing here. You see, you have to understand, for the last 20 years, these children that were born 20 years ago or 15 years ago have only been fed the fact that the Jewish people are pigs and that they need to be murdered off, that they need to be killed off and their heads chopped off, and that's the only way they'll get their 72 virgins in heaven. So how do you go against a race of people that have been fed literally books, movies, cartoons, everything that has to do with killing the Jewish people?
Well, let me ask you this.
That's all been said for their whole lives.
Let me ask you this. Does the Jewish people teach the same thing against the Palestinians?
Absolutely not. We're 1,000% pro-life for the Palestinians. Not only that, but in any injury on the field of a Palestinian nationalist, of anybody on the ground, our teams are the ones who take care of them. Our teams are the ones who give them medicine, not anybody else.
Do you think that America supply the weapons and basically give you support for what you're doing?
Hey, look, America is involved directly and indirectly in many, 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 many different things. can we point the finger directly at America and say they're at fault for leaving everything behind when they left Iraq? I mean, yeah, we can say America's involvement in the way that they exited their last war zone left behind enough armory and weapons to do what they needed to do on October 7th.
No, I think you're talking about Afghanistan, right?
Afghanistan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That left behind such a weak signal. That America is no longer the superpower of the world. Therefore, that's why we have all these ongoing wars everywhere across the world today. Because America doesn't show to be the strong standing country. The country that comes in and puts order in the places that it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this too. For thousands of years, Jerusalem and Promised Land has been confusion, wars, disagreements, can't settle on who owns the land, who don't own the land. So can you answer that?
Well, if we go back not in the Jewish books, we go back in the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad actually comes and tells his people that they need to leave the Jewish people alone and that Jerusalem is theirs. It's written in plain understanding. I got to sit down with a teacher, one that teaches about the Quran, and he came and showed me and explained to me exactly who's who and what's what and how everything got messed up in translation. Basically, there's two series of the Quran. One of them shows that Muhammad was the prophet and that he was against his right-hand man that was the murderer, rapist, killer, hate the Jews, hate the gays, the one that would just go out and murder everybody. And then the other book says that the other guy was the prophet, that Muhammad left him the torch and said, you go handle everything now. So there's basically two books. One's the evil and one's the good. Most people follow the good. Some people follow the evil. That's basically where it stands.
So the Quran, you're telling me, tells the
two stories.
Yeah. And so you're saying the people are confused, right?
I'm saying there's a loss in translation.
And it's like kind of like a media telling one story and another media telling another, right?
That's exactly the way it is. But here you're fighting now a religious. Now you're fighting somebody's. I wake up in the morning every morning and I say thank you to who? You thank God every morning saying that you woke up, right? Everyday vertical. Well, their ideology when they wake up every morning is, if I kill a Jew today, when I go to heaven, I'll have 72 virgins. And that's the only way I'll make it into heaven is if I kill a Jew.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to comment on that, but it seems like some kind of fairy tale to me. But
that's so again, if we were to go and explain that to all these people that think that they're going out there and rioting for the good, if we were to go and explain that to them, what do you think they would say?
We have opinions from so many different people, and that's what keeps wars going. Opinions of religion and all this thing, and I think religion plays a hard part. This deal between the Gaza and Israel, and then you got the problems with Russia and Ukraine. It's a is it a bad thing or what is it?
What's going on is the sign of weakness. It's a sign of weakness in the world. It's a sign of the superpower of the world losing its throne. And when we lose that, when America loses that, we become a target. And how do you target America? Well, you don't target America directly in America. You target all of its counterparts. So it being Israel or being any of these other countries, you break those ties, and therefore then America becomes the weakest one because they're just by themselves. Yes, we've got a huge army. Yes, we've got a huge military. But if we lose Israel, we've lost the war.
Yeah, and there's issues right now saying that in America they're having protests here and there about these colleges protesting against Israel and calling it genocide. Israeli kids here or college students are doing the same for Israel. But
it's misinformation. It's misinformation. If you're asking me what's the differences, why are they doing this? It's misinformation. If I were to show you just a bunch of kids being blown up and a bunch of kids in the hospital and blood everywhere and kids shot up everywhere and things like that, you would be horrified and pissed off too. But that's if I didn't give you the backstory. Now, if I gave you the backstory telling you, look, the people that are running this country, that are allowing this to happen, are not willing to come to a understanding, or not willing to come to the table, or not willing to let our peons go, or the people that they took hostage. They're not willing to let them go and are allowing their people to stay, they're telling their people to stay in these cities that our governments are going in and trying to clear out to try to find our hostages. Okay. We're not doing this because we're trying to destroy their cities. No, we are trying to find our hostages. We're trying to find our people because we care about our people. If you didn't care about your people, you tell them to stay where we would be bombing. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're telling them to stay where we're bombing. Before we go out there and destroy a town or a city or whatever it might be, we fly by and throw out flyers and tell them, get out of this area because we are going to come through here and try to find our people. You want to help us? Bring them here. You don't want to help us? Get out. What they're doing is they're finding family of these other people that are in, for example, let's say, for example, you're in Rasa, okay? And you own a building in Rasa and you've got, 15 tenants in that building. Well, they'll go find somebody who's your family in another city, hold him hostage and tell him, if you clear that building, we're killing your uncle. We're killing your family members. And that's how they're making them hold those buildings down.
I see a lot of things over the news, and sometimes we are deceived, or we are misled into the fact or the truth for Palestine and Israel of what's really going on.
We are. If you've never heard, because again, the media is a powerhouse. It needs to keep you attracted to watching the news. It needs to keep you attracted and indulged in watching what's going to happen next. And if they don't keep you on the edge of your seat, well, they didn't do their job.
What is the opinion of the Palestinians, how they are treated in the state of Israel, where they are treated as a citizen of a country, or are they treated as an invader?
They're currently being treated in their country. You got to understand, the Hamas, there's no big leader, there's no big president, there's no big somebody you can come to and ask them, well, what are my orders? Well, what do we do with these people? So they're basically in a state of limbo at the moment. because there's nobody to point towards. There's nobody to say, hey, what are we supposed to do? How are we going to be rebuilt? How are we going to? So as of the moment, they are in a state of limbo until we find our people. How are they being treated at this point? Not the best. And again, we don't, it's not like we want, this is what we want. We don't want this. We want this all to be over with and end. We want our people back. If you give us our people back, and somebody out there is willing to put a hand and say, hey, here are your people. I know where they are. Let's go get them. Let's get this over with. Let's take care of this situation. Let's help the people of this country. Trust you, me, we are more than willing to do that. But unless somebody with some power comes and says something, we're going to keep on pushing forward until we find our people. And America would have done the same thing. America would have done the same. Mexico would have sent over, 300 rebel soldiers into this country and snatched up 1,000 people. I think that America would be invading Mexico to get its people back at any cost.
Well, I can, I try to keep myself to the point that I don't want to be one-sided. I feel for both sides. I feel like that all this commotion, all this death, and all this people losing their lives, little children on both sides, I feel like it should come to an end, and they should come together and work out a peaceful settlement to stop it all. But with the situation that you're in, Palestine is in and Israel's in, it's hard to come together. I can see that. But it has to come to an end. It has to be, I see Palestinian children suffering on the news. I see Israeli people suffering. It needs to come to an end on both sides. There need to be some giving from both sides for it to ever work.
And Israel has given for the past 20 years. It's given everything to that country to put itself together. But under the Hamas leadership, they're not giving them the tools they need in order to put their country back together.
I understand this, and this is something that people should know. Me and you talked about this before we come on. I understand that you give the Palestinian, Israel did. And with your comment, you said that Israel let the Palestinians come into Israel and work, and you supplied them with jobs and you helped them out. That is something you told me before we come on. So, if you want to explain that.
Yeah. So before all of this happened, Israel was basically how the people in Gaza survived. That we would provide them with food, we would provide them with piping, we would provide them with cement, we would provide them with everything and anything that they needed in order to build a country. Everything that they had standing there was mostly standing there from what Israel built before we left that area and gave it to the Palestinians. And throughout the time, we would allow Palestinian nationalists to come into Israel and work and get jobs and get an education and really, get themselves together. But because of the Hamas leadership in that country, because the Hamas government, if you would, that they allowed to rule that country, we found ourselves in the situation that we're in.
Okay, yeah. And I see what you're saying. And you know, sometimes it just don't work. I don't get it, but it don't work.
Look, when you've got one group that's fighting for power, one group that's fighting to survive, well, the group that's fighting for power is always going to win, because the one fighting to survive needs to feed its family. The one fighting for power, they don't care. They'll trample everything through just to get what they want. Now, all these people that are funding all of this are all sitting in Dubai with their $billion yachts and their Ferraris and Bugattis and all sorts of different things, and they're just making money off the whole situation because they're getting the donation.
So the loss of the president of Iran, do you think that might change some of the terrorist things?
We hope that might change, but on the other end, it could go really bad south, or it could really go really good. We're hoping that it goes good.
Yeah. As a concerned person, I hope so too.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's so many things that could change if people would change with it.
Yeah, if people would just educate themselves just a little bit as to what's going on over there, then they would understand.
Yeah, if people would more like what they hear, if they check it out and make sure they can see it before they judge it.
Yep.
Both sides exaggerate sometimes. Both sides.
And I tell you what, that what's going on is also the situation where we can't even we've come to such a division, we can't decide on what's a man and what's a woman. So how are we going to decide how to solve a war? That's the problem. That's the problem with companies.
That's good. Yeah, I think that is the issue there.
It's a huge issue. I mean, if we can't agree on what's a male and what's a female, well, I don't know if we could ever agree on anything.
Well, I'm afraid you're right on that.
Yeah.
Everybody has a voice, and it should be spoken. Where it's Palestinian, where it's Jewish, Russian,
Whatever.
There are just so many different issues that people should speak out, give their feelings on it, and, don't make it to the point that it would divide or make someone hate. But ask them straightforward and on issues, like I did you.
Yeah.
And let people speak their own mind.
Yeah.
Don't have to agree with them, but let them speak their own mind and respect them for what they have to say and the way they feel, and they want their vision of what it should be or how it should be. That's the way I am. Don't make everything right that everybody speaks, but it's still their right.
Yep.
To speak what they want.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you come to do the show with us, and I'm
glad you had me on.
We considered you a person of knowledge, and we appreciate you. And may God bless you.
Thanks for joining us today. To watch this show again, be sure to visit talkinlive.com. We now have Roku and Amazon Fire TV channels for you to watch from your home TV. Or find more of our recent shows on most any of your favorite social media platforms. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Good night, world. We will be talking live with you next time. The views and opinions expressed on all Talkin Live presentations are those of the host and their guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of the Talkin Live TV broadcast studio, or by this channel or its management.